notification on my phone. Someone is watching from Iteso. That is a journalist called Anne Blessing. And thank you very much for watching the show. And of course, if you want, of course, more content on financial markets, we are ready to deliver. Remember, we are proudly sponsored by OTX East Africa, your #1 private securities exchange in East Africa. This is the only exchange that will bring you services to your doorstep via USSD code. No need to access the internet, no need to go to, of course, to look for network. All you need is your small mobile phone, and you dial *292#, and then definitely you have access to over 10,000 securities all over East Africa, and you will be able to trade and transact over several products like exchange traded funds and the like. Thank you very much for watching, and of course now let's dive right into the performance of our companies here. Now, we have already seen that the day was quite bullish on Friday. We had several companies trade, 3 of them in particular, and the day ended with 8 gainers, and surprisingly very few losers. And matter of fact, only 1 loser came out there from the exchange. Now, the companies that you see losing, usually it's also just like gaining. You don't have a particular company making losses whatsoever, but it depends on the demand and supply of that stock. If you have excessive supply and the demand is less, definitely you will see the stock go down. And that's what we are seeing here on the Nation Media Group stock. However, let's have a look at the Bank of Baroda stock here in a deeper analysis. Remember, Bank of Baroda is still one of the oldest financial institutions to be listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And this definitely brings you to the point in time when, banks had not yet actually started listing on the Uganda Stock Exchange. The company was listed in 2002, and that was on the 14th of November. It was actually the first financial institution to be listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And that was a lot of excitement, given, of course, the fact that many people looked at the banking sector differently before then. But we saw later on several companies like DFCU Bank, Stanbic Bank come as long as well to list on the Uganda Stock Exchange, and that definitely had a lot of impact. Now, the company has about 213 billion worth of market capitalization and is the 12th most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange out of the 18 companies that are listed, and it has about 0.983% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Yesterday, the company moved up by 4.67 shillings, and that was about 5.81% appreciation in price, closing the day with 85 shillings. That is the closing price there. The total volume that was traded on the company was about 1,300 shillings, and that is about 110,500 shillings that was traded. Remember as well that the stock price that we have as the opening price is usually the last day's transaction closing price. So if you had trading all over the day at 80 shillings, and then someone came and actually was able to purchase shares at 85 shillings, the price is the closing price is actually marked at 85 shillings. So the price that we read out today depends on what the last day of trading had as its last trading price. When you look at their total shares outstanding, they currently have about 2.5 billion shares that are outstanding. Now, the company gained from 80.33 points or Ugandan shillings to 85 shillings, and this was a daily 5.8%, which was the best for the day that was on Friday. However, Bank of Baroda began the year with a price of about 95.5 Ugandan shillings per share. And since then, the company has lost close to over 11% of its price valuation, and it's ranked the 9th in terms of year-to-date performance. Relatively fair performance there on their year-to-date. However, the company is the #1 most traded on stock currently on the Uganda Stock Exchange within the last 3 months, from the 27th of June to the 23rd of September. Perhaps this is due to their big volume of about 27.5 million, which they had transacted on the 13th of July within the same period. This was a very huge volume and drove their capitalization crazy. Within this period now, the turnover stands currently at about 2.79 billion Ugandan shillings over the trading period of the last 3 months. Now, over the last 10 days of trading, they had trading on the 23rd, that was Friday, 23rd of September. They had trading on the 22nd, on the 20th, on the 15th, and then on the 7th. So it's not that intense or that frequent, but at least you can see scattered performances here and there and activity here and there. So it's not a bad stock for activity. You can still get your stock traded, and you can easily actually access more stock. However, you should take caution that being the #1 performer or #1 most active or most traded on stock is due to the one-day trade, which had about 27.5 million shares, not because they are much more frequent. There are more frequent companies like, for example, MTN. They have small volumes almost each and every day. And then you have Stanbic, you have Vumemed. All these companies are competing with Bank of Baroda when it comes to the volumes that are traded within of a specific period of time. Now, putting Bank of Baroda aside, I will not look into Centum because we already know Centum Investments as a cross-listed company is actually not due to, the price movement is not due to the demand and supply of the stock, but because of factors outside the demand and supply of the stock here in the Uganda Stock Exchange. So let's look at MTN Uganda. MTN Uganda is another company that actually gained on their price yesterday. That is, when I talk about yesterday, that is the last trading day on Friday. The company is the youngest company yet to be listed on the stock exchange, just listed about 10 months ago in December last year. The company has the second most valuable market capitalization with a total of about 4.19 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of shares that are floated on the Uganda Securities Exchange. And this particular stock represents about 19.4% of the entire market capitalization of the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, the company on Friday gained about 3.65 shillings, and that was now a 1.99% share price appreciation, closing at 187.03 Ugandan shillings. And when you look at their curve here, their prices are quite volatile. Depending on the time you enter the market, I would advise that you enter the market when the prices are close to 180, because according to the last 3 months performance, the price has been kept within 180 and 190, 180, 190. So between those ranges of prices, that's where you can find the best gain. However, this company also, when you look at their year-to-date performance, let's have a look now at their year-to-date performance. The company is ranked the 6th. So it's still doing better than most companies when it comes to year-to-date, since, of course, it began the year with a price of 194.99 Ugandan shillings, and that was on the 1st of January. And when you compare that to the current price, the company has lost 4.08% on its price currently in terms of year-to-date analysis. And this company, when you look at also trading, it is the 3rd most traded on stock, coming behind Bank of Baroda, if you remember, and then in the 2nd position, Stanbic Bank, and of course MTN in the 3rd place. It is the 3rd most traded on stock, And since it's still young and, of course, vibrant, people are still interested in this stock. Definitely, this is a good performance to pull off at the MTN company here. We have had rumors, and I don't know how true these rumors could be, but you could find out yourself that, of course, Airtel is the other company coming to list. You should be looking forward to that because that will bring some competition on the stock market as well. Having the biggest two telecommunications company within Uganda list on the exchange, that will be heck of a competition, and we look forward to that particular event. Now, yesterday, or the last day of trading on Friday, the company traded about 465,851 shares, and this was the biggest volume for the day for a particular company, and this represented about 87.1 million shillings worth of money that was transacted on MTN. And currently the company has 22.4 billion shares that are floated on the Uganda Securities Exchange. And therefore, as we already mentioned, it is ranked as the second most valuable on the stock exchange. And in brief, that is it for MTN. MTN brought a lot of light to the stock market. Of course, coming as an electronic IPO, the first of its kind in Africa, and also enabling people to buy shares via USSD code. That was a quite impeccable move by MTN, and we hope to see the company grow and actually get more people to invest within the company. You're still watching Financial Markets, and my name is Anthony. Remember to hit us up on Twitter at Smart24TV for your comments, your questions. They will get answered definitely, and we will give you more. Now, if you want to buy yourself some shares, and I'm talking to people like Anne, I'm talking to people like Kathy, students, as well as working class people, you don't have to get millions of money. You don't have to have a multi-million business. All you need is the willingness. All you need is the knowledge and, of course, research, making research and seeing that you learn more about the market. The stock market gives you an opportunity to invest in a company for a long-term gain. You have a vision. You must have a vision if you're to invest in a company, that this company, you're betting that this company will do good in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and you're putting your money in there so your money can be protected, not only protected, but that money can actually grow and make you more money in the future. Make your children money. You can buy shares for your children. Many people do this in the developed world. As soon as a kid is born, the first thing that dad thinks of is not a new bike, a new toy. Can I get this boy some shares in Amazon? Can I get this boy some shares in Apple? And these are very affordable. You start with what you have. If you're saving probably maybe 5% of your income, then invest that. If you're saving 10%, 20%, invest that. Invest money you're willing to part with for some good time. This is the way you will benefit from trading on the stock market here at the Uganda Securities Exchange, but as well as internationally or regionally. So whatsoever means you actually want to invest with, that is the goal you should have. You should have a long-term vision of where you want to see yourself. Now, let's look at the summary of the trading on Friday. Now, on Friday, closing the day with about 496,151 shares that were traded. We had a total money of about 87,800,000 that was traded, 87.8 million that was traded on the stock market on Friday. And compared with the previous day, there was an 80% decline in the volume. Like I've already mentioned, we had only slight volumes, with MTN being the top mover. And then about 69% decline still in the turnover. When you look at the current market capitalization for the Uganda Securities Exchange, currently the company stands at 21.6 trillion Ugandan shillings and this is the current market capitalization for the Uganda Securities Exchange. That brings us to the end of the business that took place on Friday. Today is a new day, it's a new week. Please get yourself some stock. Get to buy some stock for yourself as we begin the new week. How you do it is very simple. Open yourself an account. This account is called a Securities Central Depository, or SCD. Now, when you do open this account, and there are several avenues that I'm going to mention later on, and you will take note of those and get yourself your account. But when you get this account, the first thing you need to do is to get a stock broker. And of course, one of these options gives you the list of stock brokers. Currently, there are only 5. Let no one actually lie to you that they are a broker, and they are not. There are only 5 licensed stock brokers in Uganda. We have the most recent one being Cheaper Technologies, who just joined the other 4. We have Dyer and Blair Investment. We also have Crested Capital. We have Standard Bank Group Securities, as well as UAP Old Mutual Stock Brokers. These are the 5 stock brokerage firms that are in Uganda, licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. Remember, to trade, you need an intermediate, and this is the stock broker who will buy these shares on your behalf and put them onto your account and take a small percentage off of your profit or your interest on the stock market, close to 2% or even less than that. But that's really nothing. They are an intermediate that will help you to buy shares for you and keep you updated on what's happening on the stock market. And when you get in touch with this stock broker, the rest is history. Look through the companies, get to pick a share. Pick a share, make an informed decision. Try to make research about these companies. Google about these companies and get to know what they do. Get to know if they are profitable. Get to know their previous performance and get to invest in them. And definitely you won't regret that. Let's cross over to Nairobi Stock Exchange. Of course, we are, of course, the #1 show that brings you also content from other countries like the Kenyan stock market, which is basically the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And of course, we are given the authority by the exchange itself. Now, the Nairobi Stock Exchange declined in performance on Friday, and out of the 65, remember they have 65 listed companies, we had only about 49 Nairobi Stock Exchange listed equities participate, which was a good number. 49, 65, I mean, it's comparable and quite attractive. And these 49 companies, we had about 23 gainers and 16 losers on the stock market in Kenya. East African Portland Cement, a cement manufacturing company in Kenya, led the gainers after gaining about 9.71% on their price there and closing the day with a price of 7.46 Kenyan shillings per share. We also had NCBA Group, who appreciated by over 9.27%. We had as well Kapchora Tea Company, who came back at a 9.18% price appreciation. Car and General maintained her performance as we wound up the week with a gain of about 6.33%. And then we had on the losing side, Liberty Kenya come out at the bottom, and he came out with a price depreciation of over 10%. And closing the day with a price of about 6.3 Kenyan shillings. Nairobi Securities Exchange is another company that lost. Remember, the exchange is demutualized, meaning it is a share, it has shareholding capital, and that means it's listed also on its own exchange as a public limited company. We also had HF Group lose about 2.96%. And unfortunately, Umeme as well lost at a 2.95% decline. Remember, Umeme is also cross-listed there from Uganda Securities Exchange on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And on that particular day, lost about 2.95%. Well, in terms of volumes, Safaricom recorded the highest volume at a 13.5 million traded shares, followed by NCBA Group at 12.2 million shares, as well as Equity Group Holdings at a 3.2 million shares, and Nairobi Securities Exchange at a 1.1 million shares that were transacted on Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, regarding the performance of the index, the all-share index lost about 0.1%, slight 0.1 shillings, and that was a 0.07% daily loss, and closed at 134.86 points. A very slight decrease, nothing really to scare anyone, but of course it was still a loss. However, the company is still on a gain. That is the Nairobi Stock Exchange on a gain of 1.9% in terms of weekly performance, and about 2.83% loss on a monthly performance. Remember, the Nairobi Stock Exchange had problems around the election, and during the election period we had the company lose a lot in terms of the indices, in terms of companies losing a lot of money, but we are seeing that after the election and the declaration of a new president, the companies are returning, and also the Nairobi Stock Exchange is getting to improve on its index performances, and so we hope for a much better trend even in the future as we wind up the third quarter of the year. Remember, we also get access to the quarterly reports from all these exchanges and try to break down for you what companies were able to do on these exchanges in particular, and get to inform you on how you can take benefit of these reports meaningfully to make the choices you're supposed to make on the stock market. Now, other remarkable indices, the NSE 20 gained by 0.46%, while the NSE 25 gained by over 0.05%, which is a good performance for these particular indices. The NSE 20 tracks the average performance of the top 20 companies listed on Nairobi Stock Exchange, and the NSE 25 likewise tracks the performance of the top 25 companies that are listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And that gives you a picture of what happened on Nairobi Stock Exchange. But in summary, they had over 33 million shares that were transacted in over 1,086 deals, and they closed at 1.03 billion Kenyan shillings. That was a very huge turnover at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, compared with the previous day, the data shows a 92% improvement in volume. There was big volumes that were traded on, about 108% improvement in the turnover. In fact, I have not seen this much in Kenya. This was a very huge turnover, over 1.03 billion Kenyan shillings within a single day of trading. That was a wonderful turnover there for Nairobi, and there was a decline in the deals, about 1%. Regardless, the capitalization of the Nairobi Stock Exchange currently stands at 2.1 trillion Kenyan shillings. You can trade on this market. If you are a trader here in Uganda, you can get in touch with some stockbrokers here. I know myself of Diane Blair, Standard Bank. All these can get you stock in Kenya. Why not? You diversify your portfolio. And that is one of the key highlights for all people that have come on the show to give financial advice. Diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Recently, during the commissioning of NSSF housing, remember NSSF collects public funds from people saving for retirement, from workers all over, civil servants and so on. And this fund, because they collect a lot of money, they don't keep this money idle. They keep investing in different things. And one asset class they look at is the equities market. They invest a lot in the equities market. And also they look at the fixed incomes. And the other third asset class is the property and housing. So recently, during the commissioning of the different houses that NSSF had built in order to generate income or interest on behalf of their investors or their savers, people saving with the scheme, the chairman or managing director for NSSF actually mentioned, that is Mr. Byarugaba, he mentioned that diversification, without diversification, you can never succeed in investment. And like the old saying goes, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yes, I am here preaching stock markets, I preach debt instruments. Never trust me entirely and put all your money in these things. You will not find me there. Trust me, I will not be there to help, because when you make a loss, it will hit you. But with diversification, you can actually alleviate the losses. You can kind of hold the losses in. But without diversification, with the loss, it is a disappointing time for you as an investor. So try to diversify even in one particular, even if you have a certain asset class you're investing in. If you're investing in equities, try some in Kenya, try some in Tanzania, try some here in Uganda. Spread out the risk. Try to see that you don't focus on one market, because we don't know what will happen to this market tomorrow. So the more that you diversify, the much better you will be. Altex East Africa is gladly bringing you this show. They are the #1 private securities exchange in East Africa, and they bring you different securities across East Africa. You've been a wonderful viewer. We are now going to check out the interview I had with Mr. that is Council Lewis, as well as Council Ntabugahume Victor, talking about the amendments that we need in the Act of the Capital Markets Authority to see that we improve our markets. Stay with us. We'll be right back with that and more. See you tomorrow.